From the dusty garages of a Belo Horizonte under military dictatorship to the biggest stages in the world, this isn't just the story of a metal band. It's the story of how four young Brazilians took the fury and beauty of their homeland and forged it into a sound that changed heavy music forever. This is the story of Sepultura.
Now this is metal! Heavy! Ugly!
It all began in 1984. While Brazil was living through the final years of its military regime, brothers Max and Igor Cavalera, still teenagers, channeled their anger and energy into a raw, brutal sound. Influenced by bands like Venom, Hellhammer, and Motorhead, they founded a band. The name? Sepultura, the Portuguese word for grave, taken from a translation of the Motorhead lyric, "Dancing on Your Grave." With Paulo Jr. on bass and Jairo Guedes on guitar, the seed of what would become a metal giant was planted. With the legendary local label Cogumelo Records, Sepultura released their first works, the EP Bestial Devastation in 1985, and the album Morbid Visions in 1986. The sound was primitive, a visceral death black metal that reflected the aggression of the local scene. It was an unrefined sound, but one with undeniable authenticity. They were laying the foundations for South American extreme metal. The departure of Jairo Guedes in 1987 opened the door for a guitarist who would change the band's destiny, Andreas Kisser. With a more refined technique and musicality, Andreas brought a new dimension to Sepultura's sound. The result was Schizophrenia, an album that showed a band evolving from primitive chaos to a more complex and technical thrash metal, drawing attention far beyond the borders of Brazil. The evolution on Schizophrenia earned them a contract with the Dutch label Roadrunner Records. In 1989, they released Beneath the Remains. Recorded in Florida with producer Scott Burns, the album is a masterpiece of thrash metal. With it, Sepultura went from being a Brazilian promise to a global force, embarking on tours through Europe and the United States and sharing the stage with their idols. If Beneath the Remains opened the door, 1991's Arise kicked it down. The album solidified Sepultura's status as one of the biggest thrash metal bands on the planet. The massive world tour that followed culminated in a historic performance. For over 100,000 people at Rock in Rio 2, Sepultura was on top of the metal world. At the height of their success, they could have repeated themselves. But in 1993, Sepultura shocked the world with Chaos A.D. They slowed down the tempo, added groove, weight, and most importantly, incorporated Brazilian rhythms and tribal percussion. The lyrics became more political, addressing the social reality of Brazil. Chaos A.D. wasn't just an album, it was a declaration of identity. This dive into their Brazilian identity reached its apex with Roots in 1996. The band traveled to the heart of Brazil to record with the Xavante tribe, blending the weight of metal with indigenous chants and percussion. The result was one of the most important and innovative albums in metal history. Roots, Bloody Roots, and Rata Mahata became global anthems. Sepultura was no longer just playing metal. They were creating a genre of their own. At the highest point of their career, tragedy struck. After a show in December 1996, the band informed Max's wife and manager, Igor Cavalera, that they would not be renewing her contract. In response, Max Cavalera, the vocalist and founder, left the band he created. It was a shock that shook the metal world and divided the fan base. Sepultura's future was uncertain. Many thought it was the end. But Sepultura proved its resilience. They recruited American vocalist Derrick Green, whose imposing presence and guttural voice brought a new energy. The band continued to release consistent albums, like Against and the acclaimed Dante 21. In 2006, Igor Cavalera also left the band, but even then, with Eloy Casagrande taking over the drums, they moved forward, stronger than ever. Today, Sepultura is more than a band. It's an institution. With critically acclaimed albums like Quadra, they remain relevant and powerful. Their legacy is immeasurable. They opened the doors for countless bands from South America, proved that heavy music can be intelligent and innovative, and proudly carried the name and culture of Brazil to every corner of the planet. From the Sepultura of Belo Horizonte, roots were born that continue to grow, strong and bloody.